Hello, Taurus friends. I'm Annie Botticelli, and welcome to my Taurus February 2023 Astrology Horoscope Forecast. This is for you if Taurus is your sun sign, your rising sign, your moon sign, or any other placement of Taurus that you're watching for. What we're going to talk about here is part of your astrological picture. If you're a very late degree Taurus, so birthdays like around May 15th through the rest of the sign, or degrees like 23 degrees of a Taurus placement through the rest of the sign, I suggest you additionally listen to my Gemini report, since you very late degree friends have a more complex read and you will benefit from both readings. The theme that I have for Taurus this month is wise money choices, and we're going to dive deep into the layers of that topic. But there are also other things that are affecting your month, and we'll go into those things too. The first thing that I want to share that I'm excited about is that we do have another month of more sweet aspects compared to salty aspects. I always like to give you information about the profile of when the planets are getting along and when they're not, and the degree to which each is happening, because even though it's not everything in a month, none of these things we talk about are everything, but they are layers of the energetics that we're working with. And the more salty the aspects, the more road bumps there are, and the more sweet aspects, the more opportunities. So for positive change and for just nice experiences. So I am happy to report that we do have a string of sweet aspects, a few annoying ones, but for the most part, it's a pretty light month in that regard. Also of particular note for Tauruses, we are still in this nice break from the heat of eclipse seasons. We've got about 2 months in between what I like to call an eclipse season, because 4 to 6 weeks before an eclipse, the energies tend to start to get a little rowdy, like, a pot coming to a boil over that 4 to 6 weeks. And eclipses are astronomical events, but they're also astrological events that can bring a massive amount of change. And you know this very well because you've been going through it. Now, this has been a very challenging time since the end of 2021. The best of times and the worst of times for many Taurus placements. Because of this Taurus-Scorpio eclipse cycle, you have been getting targeted for this radical change. And, it's been intense. I know it's been intense. I know people with these placements. I've watched things that they're working with, and wow, it's really, really life-altering. But what's notable about February is that even though an eclipse occurrence or news or movement along that, timeline can happen at any time for the years that this is happening, we do have this break in between. And so we are here in that period of time. And in April and May, and we'll start feeling this in March, we've got another Taurus-Scorpio eclipse energy, cycle, but we also start to work in the Aries Libra eclipse cycle. So, there's going to be some more intensity, lots of changes, all of that coming. But for now, we've got this nice break in between, and it's noteworthy. And I wanted to mention it because I know that a lot of you have been going through the ringer. Okay, so let's see. There are so many things I want to talk about. Yes. Okay. So there's one more thing I want to talk about before we get into the layers of these wise money choices theme that I have for you, because this is especially important to know. What we are in now through April 7th is the first and longest open window of direct planets that we'll have in 2023. And the reason why this is important is because, first of all, it's noteworthy that all of the planets are going direct that we look at in Western astrology. The main ones that we look at. It's rare that happens, but it does happen periodically in the cycle of the orbits, and it is happening now. And this is a very stark difference between now and the last, February through the beginning of April, is very different energy than what we've experienced from September through January. September 2022 through January 2023. And I want to point it out because it's going to change a lot of things. You will notice it, and the more you understand it, the more you can use it, which is my point of telling you all this, is to make the most of the possibilities. So from September into January, we had everything really covered in this retrograde energy, inwards, backwards, retrospective, trying to accomplish things, trying to reach goals, trying to push things ahead, trying to rely on other people for things. all of these things had a lot of delays. Now, many things may have happened, but you will have noticed that there's a lot of dragging of feet and things not going at the rate or pace, and a lot of confusion, which we will talk more about this. But Mars in Gemini for so long has created a lot of indecision. Do I do this? Do I do this? Do I do this? Do I do this? In general, Taurus people are not, you think about a lot of things because you want to, strategize and figure out the implications beforehand. But once you're set on something, you have good clarity and you move forward with it. But this has been a very inordinately long period of time of vacillation. And part of that has been coming from the retrogrades, where you just weren't supposed to be sure. And there was a lot of evaluation of, do I do this? Do I do that? Do I do this? Do I do that? And now we're starting to get into the time where you're starting to have the clarity and you've got this open window to make a big impact. When the planets are in retrograde, it's more of an energy of hanging out in your web and letting the food come to you with the web you've already created, not actively going out and try to make all these other webs. It's a time when you sit on the beach and see if what garbage or what beautiful wildlife the sea brings in to you. And you just work with what comes to you. But now February and, March into the beginning of April is a time to set your boats afloat, throw your messages in a bottle out. The tides are going out in a very, very, very big way. So anything that you want the tide to carry far and wide, there's amazing energy at this time. And then there's this increasing clarity to go along with it, and it just drives together perfectly. We're not going to have another time in all of 2023 with everything moving forward in this way like this. We'll have little breaks in some of the retrograde storylines, which, by the way, if you want my 2023 snapshot into the retrograde direct calendar that I made, go to AnnieBAstrology.com, Annie, the letter B, astrology.com, and sign up for my exclusive content portal. And I have my 2023 retrograde and direct calendar so that you have it for your planning purposes, because things just do tend to go smoother when we are in a direct period of time. And if you align your efforts with the natural rhythms, then things can be much less frustrating and go further. Okay, so now let's get into this talk about wise money choices. And we'll talk about the different factors that are coming together for this to be coming up as a big topic, okay, and all of the links to this topic. So the first thing is that Mars being in retrograde for all that time, now direct as of January, now starting to really blaze forward, the energy of Gemini, vacillation, all that has been happening for you as Taurus placement in your house of money. Okay, so it's very personal, the ambitions, the dreams, the plans, the actions have been sort of stalled out and in vacillation. And now you're starting to really get to the point where you know what you need to do in certain financial matters, and you have the stars on your side to actually make those decisions. Now, it is important to note that even though we have a ton of great energy for this month, if something doesn't feel quite ready, or you're not getting your complete clarity yet, you are still going to have a lot of energy in March and into the beginning of April to activate these things, so you don't have to rush if it doesn't feel like time. But you have been wanting to make the wisest choice relating this topic, whether it's about housing, income, spending, buying and selling of important, items of value. All of these things have been sort of weighing on the minds of many Taurus placements. And now is a time where you start to get that clarity to make a wise choice. Now, another layer that has been working in here is that there's a lot of energy in your 10th house, both in a short-term way and a long-term way. So Saturn is moving through your 10th house. That's a long-term placement. The sun is now there. And these placements, and your 10th house is work and career. And for many people, work, means money. Now, some of you might be making wise money choices with money that you already have. Some of you might be retired and, some of this work stuff is not relevant for you. But it is the energy of what you are using your energy to create, and whether that's sustainable and whether that's true to the vision that you have for your life, because there is this energy of squaring to your ascendant. So it's like, If there's something about your work that doesn't feel true to you anymore, if there's something about how you make money that doesn't feel like it's aligned with your shifting goals or the way that you see things or your, your core values, all of that is coming up as questions now, which again can be led into these wise money choices, which can also be how you're making the money. Another layer of this is that Venus is in Pisces. Now, this is going to shift as the month goes on. And this is part of what I was meaning about if you're not quite ready, things are going to shift here. But you might be feeling a little bit emotional about money because Venus rules money and finances. And moving through Pisces is kind of this like amorphous blob of connectivity, and it can bring a lot of emotion. So if you're having to make an emotional money decision or financial decision, as the month goes on, you'll be able to sort out some of those things to get your readiness, to get your clarity. And so these are, multiple layers of this storyline. And like I mentioned before, some of this can really have to do with the selling of an important asset or not, the purchase of an important asset or not, having to do with where you live or a family home. And so there's a lot on the line here, and things are really brewing. And then we add to that Pluto is about to go in Aquarius for the first time in almost 15 years. So this is also going to go into your 10th house of work and career and employment and, or use of your resources with what you're putting out there into the world, whether you're earning money from them or not. So there's a lot factoring into these wise decisions. But this is a time where that's definitely a topic that's coming up. Okay, so some other things that are happening. You have a very full 12th house. This is the house of your inner world, your intuition, your connection to the quiet space where the all that is contains everything and where we are all the same and connected. And from this place, this, can be your psychology. This can be your intuition. And your intuition is wanting to have some attention here because Jupiter, we only have Jupiter move through each sign for about a year. And last year, and now into this year, into May, Jupiter's really working on the Aries energy, which for Taurus is your 12th house. So I've talked about this over this time, that moving away from only making decisions with logic or balancing logic or intuition, or in some cases favoring intuition over logic, what you feel to be true. This is a storyline that Taurus people are really going through right now. And if you understand it, then it makes it a little bit easier. So synchronicities, magical things that are happening where you're like, wow, that's clearly not an accident, right? Clearly not a random situation. You might notice these kind of things are happening more. And synchronicity is the language of spirit. So spirit's talking to you. Whether it's a bird that shows up at your, house and is staring at you like, are you trying to tell me something? There may be symbolism that bird represents, that spirit is trying to speak to you in the language of symbolism. So these, this sort of lesser seen realm is really very prominent in the chart of Taurus placements in a short and long-term way. So you might notice that there's a progression or evolution of this storyline that's also very active right now. Okay, so 2 important dates to note. February 5th, we have a full moon in Leo. The days around that, you may see completion, fruition, drama, come to children, romance, hobbies, fun, expression. So you might be doing something really fun, or you might have a family drama, or any number of things that could go on. But I always like to know when the full moons are, because you might get a little bit of insomnia, you might feel emotions rising to shake off. I always think about a full moon as like a time when we shake loose emotions, like a dog shaking water after they've been wet, with the water representing emotion. So there's a time for you to shake loose some emotions, for better or worse. And the days around February 19th to 20th, we've got a new moon in Pisces. So this is a nice aspect for you. This is a 60-degree angle. It's a sign that speaks the language, this nice combination between earth and water. It's a time where you really can allow yourself to dream and imagine and feel your way into a new reality, or surrender a problem to the divine, or figure out something about yourself, about your deep inner world that has some value to you. If you like knowing the dates of aspects and how they may affect you, you may love my write-up that I do for my email community. I do a very detailed write-up each month with all of the notable aspects and what effects they may have, delivered to your inbox 1 month early. So you can see that at anniehelpsyou.com. You can look at the notes underneath the podcast or video to see all of these, many of them free resources that I have for you to make the most of the astrological potentials. If you would like to learn astrology, to be a professional astrologer and learn how to earn money from your love of the stars, that is my department. Would love to help you. Or if you just want to learn astrology for yourself and to help your friends and family, you can go to beastropro.com, beastropro.com. I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.